Early this morning, the president did issue a statement committing to an orderly transition on January 20th, while still claiming, though, that the election was rigged, without providing any evidence. As the Trump presidency comes to an end, does the U.S. still hold the moral authority it once did on the world stage? I'm joined now by Kirsten Hillman, Canada's ambassador to the U.S. Ambassador Hillman is with us from Washington. Hi there. Good to see you. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you, Vashi. Thanks for having me.
I sure have a whole lot of questions about what happened and its implications for this country. But first, I just want to start off by asking you what yesterday was like for you in Washington.
Well, there's no question that it was a very, very difficult day here. The sad and disturbing events that we saw, that Americans saw, that Canadians, people around the world watched were horrific. The incursion into the Capitol, the lawmakers and journalists and others running for cover, people died. But the good news is that those same lawmakers emerged. They went back to the task that those rioters were seeking to disrupt, and they were able to complete their role in the peaceful transition of power to President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris. And so that is the important takeaway. But it was no doubt a day that will go down as a very sad day in American history.
Were there any security implications for the embassy or for you? Anything change in the way you governed yourself yesterday because of the concern outside?
Yes, absolutely. So the mayor of D.C. and federal authorities asked anyone that has that occupies basically the downtown core, and the Embassy of Canada is only blocks away from the Capitol, to not come downtown yesterday. And so our embassy was closed. We had a few security agents, but that was it. And so we followed our security protocols and the advice of the mayor's office in that. And I'm happy to say everyone is safe. All Canadian embassy employees are safe, and our property also was unharmed.
I know there was a travel advisory, sort of an update to the travel advisory yesterday that your office highlighted. I think it's been removed. We checked the website. I think it's been removed. I'm just wondering what you think about the prospects of inauguration and whether you think something like that might come back, an advisory might come back with the prospect of what could happen there.
Yeah, so the inauguration plans here in D.C. are still very much unknown. We have some basic parameters about what we expect to happen, but we don't really know. We know that it's going to be largely virtual. We know that there will be some, or there have been planning to be some, in-person events. So we're gonna have to wait and see what the events are that are being planned, and what, in fact, the incoming administration is going to issue in terms of guidance to people, and including premises like ours, which we will be, of course, very, very close to any kind of outdoor event that might take place at the Capitol.
Just as a person who lives and works there, are you worried about what might happen, given what unfolded yesterday?
Well, I guess I would say a couple of things. This is a city that has many demonstrations all the time. And some of them are demonstrations that involve like thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people. So it is an environment where people are used to dealing with large crowds and managing those crowds. Sometimes that doesn't go as well as it should. Yesterday, clearly, it went very badly. But there is a sense that this isn't. This is something that there are systems in place to manage. There will no doubt be lessons learned, obviously, from yesterday. So to answer your question about being worried, I'm not specifically worried for myself and our staff. We are very disciplined people. We follow the guidance. We take care of ourselves, and so we will just continue to do that.
On the events of yesterday, from your perspective, do you hold Donald Trump responsible for inciting what happened?
Vashi, I understand why you asked that question, and a lot of people are asking that question and are giving their views on that. I don't think it's for me to answer that question. My role is to really be to work very hard to understand what's happening here on the ground, to observe, to report back to our government, to report back to Canadians, to assess what it means for Canada. And that's what I'm doing. And, the situation is still unfolding. This is, as your reporter said in the piece just before I came on, There are many, many things that are continuing to happen as repercussions of yesterday. And so that's what I'm focused on, is watching that, reporting on that, assessing what that means for our government, for Canadian interests, and for Canadians.
And I take that point, and I fully realize you're a diplomat, Ambassador, and I think you understand why I'm asking as well, right? Because this feels a bit different than the past. And I know the line that yourself and the government has to walk in the relationship that exists with the United States. But there are other leaders, for example, Angela Merkel in Germany, who are being more specific about at least holding the president to account to a certain degree, or acknowledging his culpability to a certain degree. I acknowledge that you don't see that as your role, but do you understand how some Canadians might view that as important, given the words that he has used?
I do. I understand that. And I think that Canadians, all Canadians, can look at the facts, and they can see what is happening here in this town and in this government. But there's something else I'd like to focus on for a minute, if I could. I'd like to take us back to the election in November. The election in November was very complicated. It was complicated because of the political environment here in the United States. It was very complicated because of COVID restrictions. It was very complicated because there were going to have to be many more mail-in ballots than ever before. We all remember how long it took for those counts to take place. And systematically since then, we've seen the federal government here in the United States, we've seen state level governments, we've seen the US courts all behave and undertake their roles in their democracy with the utmost professionalism, right? And we saw that again yesterday in the face of a horrific events. We saw, as I said, those legislators go back and fulfill their role. So the democracy of the United States depends on thousands and thousands of different people that work within these different systems. And ultimately, of course, it depends on the American people. So I think I'd like to focus on that. I understand people's desire to explain the situation. And as I said, the situation continues to unfold. So there will be lots and lots of talk about what has happened, what may continue to happen over the coming days and weeks, and what might have led to that, so that lessons can be learned for this country and for the world.
Are you hesitant or worried about saying anything specific about the president, because there are still 13 days left? Like, do you think there is a risk for Canada that something could still happen that negatively impacts us?
I just think that what is happening here in the United States is bigger than one person. I think that there are many contributions, and I feel that I just don't think it's constructive for me to be opining in detail at this moment in time when things are still really much evolving.
It certainly is bigger than one person, and we saw evidence of that yesterday. And from your perspective, are there wider implications for Canada because of that? Yes, the president's term in office will come to an end, but the people who support the claims that he has made and the ideas that he have put forth clearly are prepared to go very far in the name of those beliefs, and they will still be there after the president leaves office. Are there consequences for this country, or something you take away for Canadians watching tonight from that?
I think all Canadians, and I speak personally as a Canadian and as a voter and as a citizen, I think we need to be sure that we are cherishing our democracy, and that we are careful with our democracy, and that we are careful with the kinds of words that we use when we engage in policy debate. I think that all of that is much more important than anything else. And I hope that that's what people are reflecting on here.
Okay, Ambassador, I'll leave it there. I appreciate your time this evening very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel, or click the link for another video.